Welcome to Volume 11 Rock Talk Podcast, brought to you by Volume 11 Music. Your hosts, Rich Hoffa, Rick Lawhorn, and Mark Dunn. Rock Talk, Volume 11 Music.
Sound a lot like the guy at the beginning.
Yeah,
You do.
Rock Talk with Volume 11.
Volume 11. Well, hey, we're messing around, and
That's
this
Rich
is
Hoffa.
we do.
this is Rock Talk at Volume 11 Music in Fredericksburg,
Rock
Virginia.
Talk.
I'm Rich Hoffa.
Rick Lawhorn.
Mark Dunn.
Mark Dunn. All right. So today we
Too much fun.
we decided to talk a little bit about the business aspect of it, and you know, I'm here. I'm the owner of Volume 11 Music. Got back into it from working in a music store in the 80s. So a lot's changed since then, and you know, it was you know, of course, you know, I'd worked in other industries and stuff. So I'll let you guys, you know, ask me some
All right,
questions.
I got
and see what you think.
So, of course, Rich and me go way back, late 80s, Robertson's music, and we're here 2024 here at Volume 11. So, and you're obviously a drummer.
Right.
What is something, you working at the store, that you've seen different from, say, a customer 1988, they come in, they're looking for cymbals or looking for sticks in 1988 versus here in 2024? What are some of the differences or similarities, you know, that you, if you had to compare those two? Obviously, that's 35 years apart.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is the amount. Well, first off, the amount of SKU numbers they have.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, back.
Excuse me?
Excuse
Yeah, so back in the day, I mean, really, like, you know, Zildjian, you had your A Zildjian, you had K's, and then they came out with an entry level line, you know, and to be honest with you, they did not sound good. But that was a big part of it. And then, you know, of course, now, you know, you got a lot of different cymbal manufacturers, and there's so many different levels. And to be honest with you, I'm really surprised at how the entry level cymbals sound. They're good. You know, one of the big factors that they really started doing is working on a lot of the you know, effects cymbals and things like that. So there's so many variations of cymbals. And then, you know, of course, the price difference.
Yeah, we talked about that
now versus, you know, what they were is night and day. And of course, everything goes up in price. But you know, recently the biggest thing is since I got back into this, cymbal prices honestly have doubled in price. And you know, it's kind of one of those things. And why is that happening? So it's you know, the main elements of cymbals are, you know, copper and tin. So you had price increase on copper and tin, and then, you know, manufacturing costs with energy costs, and so all of that combined, you know, makes the cymbals, you know, more expensive because they're just more expensive to make.
Now, do you think it'll ever go back the other way, or is it just kind of this thing like it's just going to keep on moving
I think it will. I think it will have to. You know, I think that, and I've already seen it with some things. You know, things will go up or go down. You know, and I see a lot of, you know, I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube and things like that, and then you start, you know, well, they're price gouging, they're doing this, they're doing that, and you know, I own a store. That's not the case.
It's not price gouging.
You know, the margins haven't gone up.
Right.
It's just, you know, your materials and honestly, the shipping cost is really the main driver of everything, because you got to think you got to harvest the materials that you're building the stuff with, and then you've got to build it, and then you've got to ship it, and with all that stuff going up, it makes everything go up in price. So it's all relevant to.
Glad I'm not a drummer.
Yeah, I'm glad we.
Well, yeah, you know,
6 strings.
well, you know, Rick, we were talking about it. I said, Rick, do you realize that if you buy a nice high-end crash cymbal and a cymbal stand, you can buy an SE Paul Reed Smith, and you just got one cymbal stand and one cymbal, and it's about the same price.
I'll just be the cowbell player, like the Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah.
I gotta have more cowbell. Yeah, that's all I'm buying. I'm not
Being
buying those cymbals.
That's why drummers don't buy drums like guitar players buy guitars.
Yeah.
But to your point on the SC for the price of a stand and a cymbal, though,
Yeah.
in the 80s, I mean, if you were buying any kind of a quality instrument, and some of them even American-made, until the Japanese manufacturers started showing up, the American manufacturers.
Yeah.
Coming in for a third of the price, but as technology advances,
Yeah.
the Paul Reed Smith SEs you couldn't buy that quality of a guitar 20 years ago.
No,
at that price.
No way.
No
way. Yeah.
And a lot of the other brands have, followed suit as far as because when you use the technology that's a CNC machine, which is something that cuts parts to nano tolerances, so to a billionth of an inch tight fit. Those guitars that are built overseas for a few $100 are not of necessarily the same quality of a 59 Les Paul or a Paul Reed Smith, a higher end Paul Reed Smith
core model.
But the construct quality is the same.
Yeah.
Right. Fully agree.
It's like, and you couldn't get that. There's no way you could get that quality of a guitar like a Paul Reed Smith SC 20 years ago.
Well,
much less the 80s.
Well, the new one, the Satin SE that they just came out with, the biggest. I tell you, for $499, that guitar. I work on guitars, so I do all the maintenance here. I do setup work, I do fret leveling, I do wiring, I do all that stuff. So I like to look at the mechanics of the guitar. So I took one apart just to see the electronics of the thing versus a competitor's brand at the same price range, and it's night and day. It looks like the higher end SEs are. Their quality is all the way down from top to bottom is the same. And another big thing was the truss rod. The truss rod adjustments. It's such a precision truss rod in that guitar versus some of the other entry level stuff. A little movement and it makes a difference on the neck. Where some of the other stuff you got to really crank on it to get it to do what you want it to do. And but I think the playability of the guitars. I can remember back then if you bought $100 or $200 guitar, good luck playing it.
Yeah, the strings are this high off the neck,
inch off the neck, and that's just not the case with a lot.
No,
of stuff,
the newer stuff is way. It's good to see that any age, but with a lot of the kids that we teach here, that they got a fighting chance. It's like, okay, you got a guitar that didn't cost a gazillion dollars, didn't break the bank, but it's still set up good enough to where you can learn to play it, and it's not going to kill your fingers. That was not the case in 1988 or 89. Definitely.
Yeah. But I remember those times, when the Japanese companies were building knockoffs of American instruments, and they were half the price or a third of the price, and they were better.
Yeah, no, I played some back in that era. You're right.
Like the Aria Les Pauls.
I remember playing a few of those.
And then the American companies got a little bit embarrassed, and there was I think it was out in California where the customs went out and cut the headstocks off a couple of the different brands that were just annihilating the quality on Fenders and Gibsons, and that was it back then. Fender, Gibson, Gretsch. That was before, and then so Ibanez was made some killer knockoffs, and that's essentially how they got started.
Yeah, they're only 7. I didn't realize they went back to like 71 or 72.
All the lawsuit guitars.
And that's what I was talking about. The lawsuit guitars were customs went and cut the headstocks off because they were making them exactly the same. Yeah, and so like my brother Jimmy has a '76 Carina Explorer.
Oh, okay.
But I'm still trying to get off of him, because that's an Eddie guitar.
Yeah, definitely.
And that guitar is amazing. And so I've played some of the Ibanez Strats from back then.
Yeah.
The American companies, not to besmirch them, but they went through some periods where the quality wasn't that great, and they needed to get a fire lit. And somebody like Paul, he came around 84,
right?
Yeah, I was in high school and I remember seeing the Carlos Santana plays Paul Reed Smith guitars. There's an 84, and I was like, "What's Paul Reed Smith? That's a really pretty guitar." And so that's like, okay, he's on the map. He's got Santana playing a PRS, so that was 84, 85.
And his quality, and Santana came from, was it Ibanez or Yamaha?
No, he had Gibson. He was playing. He used a Strat on that one album, but he had the SG and he had a Les Paul that he used a lot.
Yeah. But he, that was a coup, because Paul not only came out with a wonderful design and the quality was there, but he actually got patented ideas and innovations on the instrument.
Right.
Whether you liked him or not, that's something to say about coming into a realm that's niche to begin with. Not everybody plays guitar, but everybody writes with a pen, so everybody's going to be right. So it's niche to begin with, and then to supersede what's been done and invented, and make it more innovative. I think Paul, and then a guy like some of the more boutique builders, but could always make a wonderful guitar by hand. But I think Paul probably inadvertently shamed the American companies.
Yeah, you got to step up your game.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think he did because of especially with what he's doing, but what he's done with the SE line, and they go out there and they train the people over there. The factory, they have their own factory, so it's PRS up and down the lineup. And they're just putting out a quality instrument from the top to the bottom, and vice versa. And some of the manufacturers, they're even in the same price, they're okay. But the biggest thing I run into is a lot of times very, very cheap electronics.
Right.
And, the switches and stuff are really, really not good, and things like that. And the bad part is, when this electronics start going out, by the time you get it fixed, I mean, you could have
bought something that's on the next level up.
Next level, yeah.
No doubt.
But I mean, it's changed a lot as far as even drums have changed a little bit. I mean, they've got such more variety of differences, and I think that back then, I mean, of course, the entry level kits was Tama Swing Star and
I knew a lot
Pearl
of players,
Export and stuff, but those were great drum sets.
Yeah.
But anything less than that was just it was really, really bad. And now you got a little bit better stuff, and of course you got the electronic stuff as well. That's just come a long way.
Do they have as many like the signature drumsticks and it seems to be a thing as.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess there was some of that back then.
There was some of that back then, but that's when it really started coming. Back then is when it really started. With the signature stuff, because I mean, I've been playing the same signature drumstick for 35.
But you know what? I've never met this 2B guy.
Yeah,
I've never
2B, 5A, 707. Yeah,
that's signature. Oh, that's that. Yeah, I thought those were signature.
But, I don't know. For me, I kind of stick with the same thing, but like you guys look at strings and guitar picks. One of our local owns a studio. He chases drumsticks. I mean, he comes in and tries all these different drumsticks, and I go, I can't do that because it's the weight's different, and I just can't jump from one stick to another.
But I think back to even like in going back to the late '80s with guitar strings, you had a few sets there. It's like, okay, there's Ernie Ball, and there's Dean Markley, but now it's like everybody, their brother and sister makes a guitar string. I mean, we have
they're stridently different.
Yeah, there are a lot of interesting variables.
Yeah, it's and the different gauges and
the tone, and we'll get we're gonna make that another episode because just tone. I mean, between the different strings, different tones, picks make different tones. I mean, it's
if you would have told me when I was a kid that I'd be buying a pick for $20, I would have been
right.
Well, I never thought I could sell one. My cousin Joe from Ohio, when I started opening, he goes, you got to get gravity picks. And I go, I don't know, man, $6 a piece for a pick? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm telling you. And of course, I sell tons of those things. And there is a difference. I mean, there is. They feel different. They sound different. And it's crazy, but sell $50
I was amazed when I got on board here at Volume 11, and you were doing the DR strings, which I didn't know a lot about, but I'd heard a lot about. It's like, wow, there's tons of DR strings. I mean, just lots of variables on how many they put out. They're all great.
Yeah. But the downside of business from back then to there is the amount of work it takes to run a business.
You got to wear a lot of cats.
It's insane. Back in the day, you had a cash register.
Yeah.
You check things in, and I used to complain about doing inventory. I would love to see that happen again, because not only do you have to do inventory, it's all the computer stuff. I mean, it took me 5 weeks just to enter all the merchandise.
I thought computers were supposed to make things easier.
Yeah, they're supposed to.
No, they don't make things easy. They don't need. They do. They make things easy. Well, nothing. They don't make anything really easy. It just it's now with the computer. We're online. You got all the stuff from my point of sale to Reverb, and now I'm working on the website to be able to do that as well. But nowadays, you've got to have be a salesperson. You got to have somebody that's checking the stuff in. You got to have a buyer. You got to have a social media person nowadays. I mean, it's there's to run a small
Gotta have
shop.
somebody to tune that banjo.
Yeah. None of us know how to do it.
We're
So
not, no banjo.
we got a
players here.
banjo.
But we
And
do have a
nobody knows
banjo,
that. Hey, but I do have one of those tuners, the Roadie. It's got 150 different tunings. So I just computerize the thing and go over there and hit the string.
You play all the Soundgarden songs.
Well, how do you think I get all these drop tunings? I mean,
that's right.
You need a science degree to figure out all these drop tunings.
I had a drop tuning on stage once when my strap broke.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens.
That's it. So you guys want to have anything else to talk about business, or you want to wrap it up and wait for the next episode?
I'll talk about business. Come and see me and Rick for guitar lessons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Cool crew.
Well, that's one
down
thing we
there,
didn't touch on. Let's finish that up.
Okay.
These guys are professional musicians. This is what they do. They play guitar.
Yeah, but what's your day gig?
Yeah, I sell.
That's what we do.
Yeah, right. I get people ask me all the
asks us
time.
that.
Rick, what do you do in the daytime? Well, I hang out at Wawa, and I sell
Free
gasoline.
coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I go to the Wawa. I have an endorsement with Wawa.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, I mean, Mark and me, we're full-time musicians. And people, y'all are like in Fredericksburg. You're not in New York or
There's
Los
a cognitive
Angeles.
dissonance when you tell somebody that because I've actually been asked, well, are you famous? I'm like, I guess not if you got to ask.
I always say, if you know, you know.
That's right. In some circles, I'm quite well known.
Right.
Yeah.
Circles about that big.
Right.
Well, yeah, the teaching and the gigging, and both of us do that. We stay pre-booked as teachers, and we're both, out there playing lots of shows.
Hired guns.
And having fun.
Have yet to play a show together. But
I know.
we're
That's got to
working on
happen
that,
here in the near future, I hope.
Yeah.
It's
And you do
fun.
the single stuff.
Yeah.
I do solo stuff.
Solo
yeah.
stuff and all that stuff. All that. So.
Don't make Chrissy upset because you said single. I'm not single.
Yeah. The solo act stuff is pretty cool, and you do some studio work as well.
Oh
don't
yeah,
you?
I'm recording all the time for clients and projects all around the country. Actually, and
How long have you done studio work for, Mark? Your background studio.
I think I could trace back my first paid session to when I was 20.
Wow. Okay.
And that was an intimidating session because, of course, I knew everything.
Yeah, that's 20-year-olds do.
Well, right.
Yeah, right. Same here.
I always tell people I was a Ferrari without a steering wheel. So I could play fast. I could play. There's an innate capability that you've seen in students. Mm-hmm. We all learn how to play before we learn it is what we're doing,
right?
For the most part.
Yeah.
And this particular session was for an album on MCA out of Canada. And the producer was Stacey Hayden, who played guitar for David Bowie and Iggy Pop.
Okay.
And he's still a friend of mine today, and I appreciate him for all of this in this session because I didn't know. I mean, he was basically just asking me to do fundamental things, which I could do. I just didn't understand what he was asking me.
Right.
So it was an incredible learning experience in that I knew I really had to get my act together to catch up to understanding what it is I was capable of doing.
Yeah.
And he's the one that kind of made me aware of that in a very kind way. And I'm on the album, and the artist's name is Lonnie Glass, and George Marinelli's on that album from Bonnie Raitt's band, Bruce Hornsby's band, a bunch of.
That's great.
Yeah, so that was my first paid studio session.
Right.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, but now, and that was in a studio, back,
Yeah.
how it used to be.
How it used to be. That's one of those back then versus now. It's on a laptop in the bedroom, with the beat being put down.
Have a studio in your house.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, the record that's getting ready to come out with Dave Coots, I tracked my guitar parts in my studio. Dave's in Huntington Beach.
Wow.
Drew Coleman's in Virginia Beach mixing. Trip Johnson on drums in Suffolk, and Steve Cook on basses in Nashville.
That's incredible. I mean, just the technology. You could have done that in 1973 when you had to go into Abbey Road and cut Dark Side of the Moon.
There's something to be said for that, though. I mean, I think earlier we were talking about vinyl. In the other episode, and Pro Tools is cool, but it doesn't. I find it interesting that on top of Pro Tools being so advanced that you can make a record in your room, and the technology that allows you to do things with it is cool. but it's almost like it's a hyper technology in that we're starting to see a trend of like, how do I make this sound old?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I'm seeing more and more 2-inch tape machines in Nashville.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot
more and
of
more
those,
2-inch tape machines in Nashville.
Well, I had a guy who was doing some really hardcore metal stuff, and he said everybody was using the digital stuff, and he was doing some stuff, sent it to a producer, and he said, nope, we want tube amps and distortion pedals, and they're kind of because
you can hear it. I feel like I can hear it.
Well, you can hear it, and that's the thing is the tone. It makes you sound different. With a different
it's reactive.
Tone. It is
reactive. And I've sometimes I feel like I hear albums, and I call it, I can hear the binary. Like I can hear the digitalness of it.
Yeah.
And I think the great engineers and producers of the 70s and the 80s and then the 90s are still the great engineers and producers,
right?
Because they were able to mitigate how they hear things through the digital realm.
Yeah.
Bob Clearmountain.
Yeah.
Ted Templeman was still producing.
Ted,
right.
man, he was amazing.
But Andrew Coleman, who I work with, 3-time Grammy Award winner, he went to Full Sail and learned how to do all the recording on tape, and then became full time as Pro Tools entered into.
Oh wow!
And so he not too many people have both the world's experience. Because a lot of the newer generation. They might still teach that at Full Sail, but my God, I know people that get a computer and an interface and download a freeware version of some DAW, digital audio workstation, and the next thing you know, they're just off to the races with it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But it's interesting to see tape machines coming back. I find that interesting.
That's it.
I'd like to know if we had a crystal ball like 15, 20 years from now, new music's still being made. Where is it then? Is it overly digital, or is it like, nah, we're going way back old school and going back to like
say. I think
60s and 70s.
You're starting to see I'm starting to see more. And you guys are seeing it too. With your students.
Oh yeah,
but I'm starting to see younger people getting into the music that we were into and things like that. And I'm getting phone calls. Hey, do you teach rock guitar? Things like that. And I'm starting to see the younger kids wanting to see records and things like that. So I think it's kind of going full circle. A lot of kids are getting to where they think that all that stuff is cool. The tape decks and stuff, and that's become popular again as well.
Yeah. Well, it would cause, and not to sound mean, but if the going to tape machines again is going to be because people can play.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to be able to.
Yeah. Right now. Yeah. If you know how to work Pro Tools and you have a musical mind, it doesn't mean you're not a musician, but the artistry of playing an instrument has almost become secondary to engineering capability in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah.
And again, that's not a slight, because
just like Howard Cosell telling it like it is.
So when you have the ability to, if you can work a digital audio workstation or digital studio to the point where if you don't even play guitar, but you can tune strings to the point where you can aim for frets on one string at a time and then record each string on a separate track, which I know a prominent artist has done because they couldn't play. You could not do that on tape.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
You got to be able to play. So,
that's right.
So I think that might be kind of an interesting foray back into a smaller pool of talented individuals.
Yeah.
But I always thought it was interesting where, and I'm sure you all have heard this as well, where such and such band, they must have played on their own albums. No, they brought in all these studio musicians.
That's
to
Nashville.
Play. Right. Well, very true.
Yeah.
A lot of the Kiss albums. I was like, well, Peter Criss played all the drum parts on Dynasty. It's like, no, Peter Criss didn't. He was on one or two songs.
Anton
Fig did most of the drumming on Dynasty and Unmasked, and never knew that back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, that they masked it, no pun intended, in the rock realm.
Yeah.
But in Nashville, that's the way it's been for a long time.
Right.
And also in L.A., you had the studio or the Union session guys, Tommy Tedesco, Carol Kay.
So
so that they all churned out different sounding music.
Right. That's right.
I mean, and it could be argued that doesn't happen in some places.
Yeah.
But it's what it is, man. You know.
Yeah.
But I do find it interesting that I see more tape decks being used now.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, everybody, that is the wrap on episode. What are we? Episode 4.
We've made it
and,
4.
If you like listening to us, please subscribe to our Volume 11 Music, YouTube page. And again, if you want to send us some questions, we'd love to answer them for any of us. We're here for open book, and I hope you're enjoying what we're talking about. And we'll see you next week.
Cool.
Peace.
This has been an episode of Volume 11 Rock Talk Podcast, brought to you by Volume 11 Music.